So last week we did the bowling team, got the array set up. We set up the class for the bowling team with the team name, the members. We did our setters and our getters. We did our set team name and the get team name and the set member and the get member. And the difference was the name was easy. It's just a string that we were setting the team with versus the members. We're sending a number with it because it was going to put it in an array. We're going to put everything that way and then store it. And then the demo was actually using those. And we created our bowling team instance with BT. And we use the constant for the number of members. In this case, it was 4. Again, we can do whatever we want. We asked the user for a team name. We stored that. We set that team name there. And then we just loop through and then enter the users. So actually, and I can just do it again just to make sure everything's still hunky-dory. Build that, and then I can build this again. I don't think I did anything to mess it up. Hopefully I didn't. And we can run this. So team name, I use Stooges, Larry, Mo, Curly, Shemp. There we go. There's my team. I don't know how good they bowl. We'll find out. Anyway. And that was it. So then I think we cut off then. Let you guys get out of here. And then the next step I was going to do was finish part of that up, the rest of that, where it actually you get the object. Declare the bowling team. It says create a program and declares an array of bowling team objects. So this was just creating it and doing it. So I was just going to step up from there. The rest of the folks come in, they come in. You guys are here, so I'm not going to waste your time. Okay. Because actually, you could be doing this, right? That's true. My dad used to work at an office, and he was doing other work, and he talked about programmers he'd see all the time. He just said all they did, they seemed like they just sit there, they type something on the keyboard, and they just kind of sat there and stared at the screen. They typed something on the keyboard, and then they'd stare at the screen. This made me laugh. I'm like, yeah, it's about it. There's a lot of staring at screens, which is probably why a lot of us wear glasses. I wear glasses for distance, not close up, but oh man. We're all staring at screens all the time. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from here. What they want us to do is I'm not going to mess this up, and I am going to create bowling team demo 2 off of this. So I'm going to just change this at the top and say to add a 2 to it, and I'm going to do a file save as, like so. And I probably have one already. I'm just going to overwrite it. I'm going to start. Okay. So we're going to have bowling team 2. So we've got the object above the declaration of the bowling team object. We've got that. Add a new name constant that holds a number of bowling team objects, and then replace the statement that declares a single bowling team with an array declaration of 4 bowling team objects. Okay. So here's our bowling team object, right there. So what they want you to do is we're going to add a constant, and then we're going to declare the object, and then we're going to replace the statement that declares the initial one. So we don't need this one, right? Because that's for the team. So we can comment that out. So we can do this, and this is bowling team 2. So we're going to say final. I'm going to create a constant num teams and set that equal to 4. So we'll have 4 teams, and each team can have 4 members. So we'll have 16 players. A nice even set, right? All right. Then I can declare bowling team again, like so. But I'm going to use the array. I'm going to create an array. Teams is equal to new bowling team. And this is going to use that constant I just created, num teams. Kind of silly, it's right there, but just kind of best practice. They try to get you into that mode, like so. Okay. Again, kind of recommend sometimes just to build it, make sure you didn't mess something up. So build it, make sure everything compiles okay. I'm a little hanging there for a second. And sometime it will come back. Actually, I'm running some process on my computer right now, and I wonder if that's hanging me up. Right, so I'll record this again. So obviously we're going to have an error here because it can't find the symbol BT because we took it away, right? So we created the instance of that, so BT there. But first we're going to say also, right now the current program declares an X, which is used as a subscript display. Now the following declaration of X, add a declaration used as a subscript for the team. So not only X, we're going to do Y. Okay, so we'll have X and a Y. And again, you can build it, but you're still going to have an error because we're referencing that BT. So we're just going to take one step at a time. Okay, for the teams. So we'll do a team, and it's going to get the team members, team members, team members is how it's supposed to go. That's the idea behind it. Then following the declaration of the scanner object, there's our scanner object right there, and that's where we get the team name. And before the team name prompt, insert a for loop that executes as many times as there are bowling teams. So just there's our bowling team. So we're going to ask for the bowling team. So we're going to say for, we're going to use the Y that we just created, we just initialized, is equal to 0. Y is what? It's going to be less than what? Number of teams. Again, we're just a little constant that we're using. And again, we're going to increment Y like so. Okay. This time we are going to use a curly because within each team, then we're going to get the members. But we're going to start this. So it looks kind of funny now, and that's the hard part when you start modifying code like this. It starts to look kind of funky because this part, some of this is going away, and some of this is being added. And so we're going to say teams. Teams is our array. Y, that's our subscript or index, is equal to new bowling team, like so. Okay. So it's going to create a new object, and that's what's going to be for teams Y. Yay. Okay. Then it says delete the statement that uses the set team. Right? So we're going to do this. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to comment it out for right now. So, I mean, again, think about a logic. You're going to come in here. It's going to loop. It's going to come here the first time. It's going to say teams Y is equal to new bowling team. It creates a new instance of that object, right? Now, it's not telling us to, well, then it says then you're going to enter the team name, and you're going to grab it. Obviously, you're not going to do this. You're not going to set the team name there, because what you're going to do is you're going to say teams Y, like so, dot set team name in that manner. And then name is the name of the team. So replacing this one above with this one below, because we're using an array to do that. Hopefully that makes sense. Very common to do this. These types of things are very common. So again, and it tells you, delete the statement that uses the set team name method with a single bowl team object. Instead, use the method with the array elements. That's what we just did. Okay. All right. So now we're still in here. We haven't closed that for loop yet. We're still inside there. And then it says again, controlled by X, which is this one. And then we got to do the same thing. We got to play with it a little bit. Okay. Now there's code in the book. If you have your book on page 290, it kind of gives you an idea of some of this, how it's going to look. You got the for loop, and we got to set our member. Again, we don't want to do this. Again, I'm going to comment this out. I'm going to take this whole section of code, this for loop here, and I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to use my tab and just tab it over and indent it. Okay. And then we have to close, make it smaller so we can see. We got to close this for loop up here too. We still have some other code to do, but I just want to get it organized because it's driving me crazy. Okay. So I want to close this for loop right here. So I'm going to put a curly brace right there to close that up. So at least I know that's correct. So I've got the for loop here, start opens there, close. And I'm going to do this. We've done this before. I'm going to say end for loop, and I'm going to say y. This one's easy right here if I say end for loop x because it's right there. But as you can see, as we add more and more code, it just kind of course, there's another for loop here that uses x, but that's it. So hopefully it's in. All right. So we've got the set team name with teams y, and then we've got our for loop for x is 0 less than team numbers. We got that. So it's going to do all the same stuff. The only difference now is instead of doing that bt.setMember, it's going to do the teams y like so, set member. So very similar, x comma name. So the only difference is instead of using the BT object that we created before, now we're going to say teams, the array, teams y, and then dot set member like that. I'll make it bigger for you so you can see it better. Again, that's why I like to keep stuff in there and just comment it out so you can see before and after, what's going on. Otherwise, it can get confusing if you just start writing code that you're not sure what you're writing. I'm still going to get an error. If I build this, I'll still get an error because I still have BT here. So that's kind of the problem with some of this because I like to build it and make sure it builds okay, but I kind of can't because if I do, I can cheat. Well, I'll know I get errors there. I'm going to build it anyway. The heck with it. I should get errors here, right? Yeah, that's fine. Everything else built though, so that's okay. So where I got errors right here, I knew I'd get errors. So then guess what? Now we've got multiple teams with members on each team, which makes sense. I mean, because rarely you're going to have one team with members. So now you do another loop. Okay. So originally we had this loop here, print out. We're going to print out the teams. So they're going to for loop at the end of the current list of 4 team members. Replace this with the following nested version that lists 4 members, names of each teams, right? So we're not going to do this. We're going to comment that out. Okay, kind of make it a mess. And then we use a while loop. And I'm going to change this. I'm just going to change all this code. So y is going to set equal to 0. And we're going to say y is less than num teams. Change that to teams, like so. And then make sure you change that. That's the only bad thing about copying, just using old code and stuff, because you got to remember you change stuff. So 4. And this, I definitely want a curly brace in here. And I'm going to come out here, and I'm going to close it up. I want that curly brace there. All right. Again, another piece of code here that I'm not going to use. I'm just going to comment it out, though. Now, if I build this now, I should not have any errors, and I don't. So at least I know at this point everything I've done is good. And it should work. I should be able to run this right now. The only problem is I won't be able to see any output. So if you're a glutton for punishment and you want to run it and enter all the information, but you won't see your see your efforts, you can do that. I'm gonna wait. So in this for loop, we're gonna print out nice. So system.out.print and do a /n new line members of team space, and then it's going to spit out the name of the team, right? And we're going to get that from the array. So it's teams y, because y is our subscript or our index. We're in this for loop here. That's where that's coming from right there. Okay. And then what's the method? Get team name. And that's it, right? And then one more to close it. So this goes together like this. So that's the only difference. Again, look at it. Same thing. Instead of BT, you're doing teams Y. That's the difference. It's the only difference. Okay. That gave us a team name. Now guess what? We get to do another for loop because this is the team and we're going to get all the teams. And now we got to do one more for loop. And this time inside, they're going to do the X. We use X and Y a lot. And that's fine. You can keep doing that. Some people like to have new variables just so it doesn't confuse them, and there's nothing wrong with that. And this is going to be the num team members, right? So it's what? Num team members, like so. And then we're going to increment x. Okay. For this for loop, you don't need a curly brace because it's just going to be one line like before. Because all it's going to do is print out the members, right? So what's it going to do? System out print. This time we're going to do a print, and it's going to print all the members right on the line. And it's going to be what? It's going to be teams. So teams y, because y is the team, dot get member. What member are we getting? We're getting member x. So the array has the square brackets, the square ones, and this one has the parentheses for the get member. All these symbols. Once you do it enough, you get used to it. And then do a little space. That's a quote, space, quote, because you're going to do member, space, member, space, member. It's going to do that. It should do that 4 times, like that. And then we close it up. And then what they're going to have you do is do just a print out a blank line at the bottom of it, because then it's going to do the next team. So you at least want some blank space between the teams. I know you're still doing that. I'm going to just build it and see if it builds okay. Hopefully it does. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I don't know if it's my other stuff that's going on that's causing all these issues or what. It's really slow. Come on, my friend. Come on. Pause. Let's see if it works. It built. Let's run it. All right, team name. We're going to have more teams in the Stooges. So I need Stooges. Larry, Moe, Curly, Shemp. I'm not checking for, as you notice, I'm not checking for value, illegal characters, numbers, any of that stuff. So, who else? What other teams? I don't know. Peanuts. Let's call it Peanuts. Snoopy. Charlie Brown. Lucy. Linus. Another team. I don't know. How about the Avengers? How about Captain America? Iron Man. Thor. Black Widow. One more. I'm running out of stuff. Any other team names? All right. Cubs. Let's do. All right. Let's say Baez. Contreras. Did I spell his name right? Oh, Lester. You said I don't remember all the names. And who else? Totally drawing a blank. Oh, no, I can't remember his name. So what happened? Did it do it? Did it do it? So there you go. Members of Three Stooges. Okay, Larry Moe, Curly, Shemp. Okay, so all the data came out back. So that's it. Very exciting, right? It's a lot of work just for that. Obviously, you're not going to probably do things like that. The book kind of shows you, but you're going to maybe take this information and then you can use it for sorting, put it in a database, things like that. I mean, that's very common to do. So just the idea is understanding how to get the information from the user, how to put it in an array, and how to manipulate it. So a bowling team, let me pull a bowling team demo, which was the first thing we did. So bowling team demo just did a single instance, just had one team and they had the 4 members like we had. So we created an instance of with BT. BT for the bowling team. Again, that's the class that we created, right? And then bowling team demo 2 used an array. Okay, that's a little small there. I mean, you're just going to want to get comfortable with it. It's kind of weird, but that's all it is. So bowling team now, instead of bowling team, here's your class, just having a single instance, now you're using this array. So it's very powerful. So I have a class that I can use, but now I can do an array with that class, which is really cool. And you can do all kinds of stuff. And this is very common for just these purposes. Be able to do stuff like this. So you can have all kinds of data. You can have like a parent group, whatever you call it, and then you could have the subgroups underneath it or members of that group or whatever data elements that are related to that group. That's very common. Obviously, this is easy with sporting events because you do it that way. And you can do multiple levels too, as you can probably tell. So again, that's one way of doing it. So that was the end of that one. That unit before. Let me pause it. So the other piece, and I don't want to spend a lot of time in PowerPoint. How do I say that? We talked about this last week. We talked about the length. The arrays are nice. You can use the array name, and then you can use .length to get the length in there, which is nice. And we've been doing that with our code, right? Going through arrays. We didn't do it there. We just number of teams. We didn't do .length, which is funny. Thought we did. I know we did one before. Searching an array using parallel arrays. It's very common. It's a simple way of doing it. So one array has one set of values, and a second array has another set of values. For example, you could have one array have IDs or a name or something like that, and a second array have data elements like bowling scores or baseball scores or test scores from an exam. So I could take each one of us, put our names on an array. John, Sue, Mary, Joe, Fred, whatever the case, everybody's in one array, and then the second array would have like a score. And the idea is, and I guess the best way to show you it really quick, I'd rather just show you it this way. Open up Excel really quick here. So you would just do something like this. So you'd have names like this, have like names and then a score. Like so. So Joe, Sue, John, Mary. Yes, I know. I picked very original names. And then, 75 or 76 or 83, 56. Yeah. And the idea is this is an array, scores is an array, and names is an array. I'll make it bigger for you. There we go. And using parallel arrays, what you do is this is an array, and then I can go and I can search for Joe, or if it's an ID, for example, and then I can then grab the score because I know element 0, this is element 0, it'll be element 0 in the array, corresponds to this here, and that's the value. That's all that's going on with that. So they have a lot of code in here and showing you a bunch of stuff, but that's the gist of it. If I pick, and I can make it really obvious here, let's insert this really quick. So the ID is 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So if I do a search and I pull up 2 just has a name that corresponds to John, and John has got a score of 56. Boom, there you go. You don't need a database, you don't need anything else, you use parallel arrays. This can become cumbersome, again, depending on how much data you have and what you want to do. If you're doing small, simple stuff, if you're sorting through stuff, a lot of times people will pull data out of a database and try to sort through some of it this way. It's a nice way to do it. And again, you can do 3, you can do multiples, right? I can have another one, right? And another one. And the idea is just knowing that in this element, so element 0 in each of those arrays are all related. Element 2, this one, are all related. These elements are all related. That's the whole idea behind it. And that's what they're trying to get at. So when they do stuff, they're showing you going through this array with a for loop, and you're going through this. If I have this item ordered, and if it's equal to whatever certain element that I finally find in the array, then hey, it's true. So as I go through this and I find, hey, are these equal? Is that what I want? Yeah. I'm looking for Sue. I'm looking for or ID number, whatever. You can say this is an ID, right? You can do that. I'm looking for ID 3. Is this ID 3? It is. Okay, so names is Mary and the score is 78. Boom, got it. There you go. Kind of the idea there. Again, like I said, really handy, really nifty idea, thought to give you that, and that's what they're talking about with this. So again, one with the same number of elements as another, values corresponding elements are related. That's it. Now, it's an alternative for searching using the while loop. And they again give the example here. So there's a lot of code here. Here's one was int, integer, valid values, and then prices. So they got certain values here, 101, 108, blah, 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 and then these are prices. So if you pull up one, and it's whatever it is, like say 101 here corresponds to 29 cents. 108 corresponds to $1.23. You get the idea. Enter a value, and then boom, you can say, okay, the price for that item is it. It's like doing a little price lookup. That's it. It's really kind of nice. These days, you probably look it up in a database or something else. But again, this is a simple way of doing stuff like that. You don't need a database to do some of this stuff. You can do it very simply with an array, with 2 arrays or 3 arrays. And you just have to know. I guess going back to the project that we were talking about with the dog rescue, you're going to do something very similar. So you're going to have, like I said, you're going to have arrays. I think I mentioned this already. And I'll do this. So you might have, I'll say dogs, vet cost, and then food cost, right? You're thinking about it? Let me get rid of this, change it. So dog, Fido, Snoopy, Josh. So I got different costs, and they had different costs, right? So I had maybe $50, maybe $75, maybe $125, maybe again $55. Food costs, 45, 65, 80, 45. Okay. Now, just for me, I'm just doing this just to make them look prettier. Doesn't matter though. But those are doubles, right, or floats. So those would be doubles or floats, doubles. And you can format them so they print out as a float, so it looks nice with the $sign. But that's it. So these are when I'm asking you to do multiple arrays, that's what I'm asking you to do. So B array 1, C is array 2, and D is array 3. That's what's going on. And then you can search, and so I know element 1 corresponds to Snoopy, and Snoopy costs $75 in vet costs and $65 in food cost. Boom. That's the gist of it there. That's exactly what's going on. Is that the easiest way to do it? It's one way to do it. It's not necessarily the easiest, like I said. A lot of times what you'll do for stuff is you'll use a database, things like that, to pull data out, and you'll do calculations that way. And then you're going to get the average cost. You get the average vet cost and the average food cost on that for that. So again, they're doing it here, going through that. So that will help you for your project. And they just have some there with the loop there. Okay. And then they have another example with an array, with searching an array for a range match for different ranges. If something is between this and this, that kind of thing. I'm not so concerned about that at this point, but you should know how to do it. They set up ranges, they have range limits, and within those, then you get discounts. So in this case, they're showing you if there's what's the discount for something. 0, 10%, 14%, 18%, 20%, and it all depends on what this range is, and they're just kind of showing you that, which is kind of nice. In this case, it's the number, so what the book says is total quality order. So if I order between 1 and 12, there's no discount, and that's a big thing too that happens when you buy stuff. Someone buys stuff, the more you buy in volume, you get more money off, right? Wholesalers are a big thing. You buy, hey, we have a sale. If you buy one of them, it costs you $10. But you know what? If you buy 20 of them or 15 of them, whatever, or 10 of them, whatever, it will take $2 off. If you buy 50 of them, we'll take $5. Boom, the price just keeps coming down. And that's why a lot of people buy in bulk for stuff, getting some big discounts. That's why a lot of times it's hard for the little guy because you can't afford to buy these huge volume. Anyway, That's the way you would do it, and then creating this table, this discount table. So again, another two, and this time it's got 3 arrays, right? No, it's got the 2 arrays, I'm sorry. It's got the integer array and it's got a double array for the rates. And then just calculating a discount. So again, depending, and it's just checking to see where it is in that range. Okay. Any questions on any of that? I keep turning off. If I go back to your project, bring it up again. There you go. Yeah. So I'm asking you store data in multiple arrays. Right. Create the application, start multiple arrays. You should have the dog rescue.java, again, very similar. So there's a lot of similarities to what we're doing right now. And then the use dog rescue. You don't have to call it use dog rescue. I call it that, but that's fine. You want to call it. I wanted to emphasize that one is the class and one is the one that you're using the class to actually run everything. And like I said, again, you can do different things with these screens. You can make them look nicer, whatever. If you want to use graphical, if you want to use JOption Paint to make things pop or whatever, that's fine. I had some students who were really talented with graphics and things like that, and they would do some really cool stuff, and that's fine. I was just don't go too crazy, but if you want to be creative, go for it. I encourage it. So here, I'm asking you, this is what I was showing you last week. So 3 parallel arrays. There's your parallel arrays with the information. Array 0, array. So think of names for these arrays, right? You're probably not going to call them array 1, array 2, and array 3. Come up with names. Again, think about it in terms of what you would do. So someone comes and looks at your code, not just me, someone else looks at it. They know what you're doing. They have an idea of what's going on, that kind of thing. So just, again, things to think about. I gave you suggestions about what to call the methods, display dogs, average cost, the setters, and the getters, and things like that. And that's what I'm grading you on with a lot of these things too. So hopefully this helps. So again, think about it with the arrays, you've got that. This is going to store this kind of information. And if you need to actually have data like that, you just kind of, that's the idea. It helps me when I have real data to know what may or may not be valid. And say, this is what I want it to look like. This is my result. And then, I'm going to put up my results. So I'm going to have something come out like this other one, where it's going to spit information out for the average cost of that. Boom. And again, when you print this stuff out, when you run it, you should know the answer, right? So that you know it's correct. To make sure the math is correct. So if I'm adding up all the food cost, right, I'm summing that up, I should know what that ends up being, or get the average cost of that, right? Here I can just do this in the spreadsheet, right? It's really easy. I can just do that. Boom. Same with this. I get my average there. So you're like, oh, okay. If I put in this exact data, these amounts and all that for my dogs, I know I should get these results, right? And mathematically, it's correct. Whether or not you use a calculator, a pen and pencil and paper, or something like Excel, like I'm doing, that should help you. And if you want, I'd be happy to post this on in the shell, just so you know what you're comfortable with it. This is the kind of things I do. I make these notes. I do all this stuff. I write stuff down of laying it out. Now I've laid out quite a bit for you in the project, but I just depending on how often you get to it, you get into your own routine of how you do stuff. And like I said, we talked about this, the menu. So anyway, just want to let you know. So I'd be happy to post that, give you a screenshot or whatever. You can look at it. Of course, it's on the video. I'm recording it, so you can see that too. But I can post that. So, any questions on that? So I get it. I totally get it. All right, let's do this. Let's go back here, make sure I'm back out there. All right. So there's the parallel arrays we talked about. We talked about that. We talked about that. We're good. Ranges. All right. So another big thing the book jumps into is talking about passing arrays to and from and returning arrays from methods. It's kind of a It's done a lot. You want to take an array and you want to pass it to a method, doing that kind of thing. Or return an array from a method. It's kind of a big deal. It's just like passing a variable, just like it says. And you're doing what's called passing by value. So a copy of the value is made and it's used in the receiving method and the method it goes to. It says all primitive types are passes for all the primitive data types. So that's a nice way to do it. So you're just passing, again, just as a variable. Okay. Again, the reference types, when you do by reference, the object types holds the memory address where the value is located. The receiving copy gets a copy of the actual memory address. So passing by value or passing by reference. So two different ways of doing it. It just depends on what you want to accomplish. If you want to alter original values, how you want to do it. So now they give you an example here of passing an array. And we're gonna do exercise with this in a second too. Get some elements. I have an array int, right? 5, 10, 15, 20. I have one array. Print out at the start of main. I have a for loop that's going to spit out the elements in that array. So it should print out each one of those, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, right? Some nums, yep, with a space. Print line. When it gets to here, it's calling some method called method gets array. And there's no brackets. It's just like a parameter, just like everything else. You're passing some nums. Some nums is the array we just had up here. So you're just passing it just by itself. That's all. It's just the characters, just like anything else. And then on the other end, on that one, when it gets it in here, the difference is normally you call this, you'll have int, string, char, whatever it is. The difference is you use the brackets here. So this is the declaration of that method. So in the declaration, then you do the little brackets there. And they say ARR for array. You don't have to call it ARR. You can call it whatever you want. Because, again, just like any variable, they just used ARR for array. That's the only difference. So that you know when it comes in that way, it's going to do that. If you don't do that, you're going to get an error. Because it's going to say you're passing incompatible data types. Right? Because up here, if you're trying to pass some nums, which is an array, it's no different than trying to pass a string, but you're, passing a string, but you're expecting an integer or some other different data type. You got to watch that. So it comes in here, excuse me, it's an integer, it says an array, and then it grabs it. And in here, as you can see, I'm using it just as if I'm in the calling program. So it's kind of nice. It's a nice way to break it up. Instead of having everything in one module and one area, you can create different methods for different pieces, calculations, whatever the case may be. And it's going to do this. So it comes in here, ARR, and you can see it gets the length of it, and it's going through and it's processing all this information. I mean, in this case, it's not doing much. It's just kind of spitting stuff out. And then even assigning some values, 888, to it. But the idea is it just lets you know, okay, how do I do this? That's in a nutshell. I mean, the basics of it. It's really not a big deal for doing that. I think, let's see, and we are gonna do that too. And you can also, the book has it too. It shows you where you can have you can create an array and you can return the elements of the array. There we go, the fourth. Is that the other one? So you can also return an array from a method, same way. So I can pass one and I can return one. Again, you return the square brackets in there, like that. So I'll tell you what, let's do this. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take, that's still going, that's going, that's okay. I'll leave that. Let's go back to bowling team. Let's go back to bowling team. Let's go to, did we do 3? We messed up 3. Did I do 3? Oh, I didn't do 3. Oh. We didn't finish the story. I jumped ahead. That's all right. You know what? Let's do that really quick and then we'll do the other one. I wanted to do the one where we search the array. I thought I did that. I did it with parallel arrays. I was telling you about that and explaining to you, but we didn't actually create. So all you do, it's actually simple. It's only like a couple lines. It's not a big deal. So we're gonna do this. So I'm gonna take bowling team demo 2, and I'm gonna change this to 3. And I'm gonna do a save as. And I already have it, so I'm just gonna overwrite it. Wah. It's okay. All right. So I'm gonna come all the way down to the bottom here. All the way down to the bottom. We can run this. I'm not gonna run this all again because you saw what I ran here, right? So there's all my teams, my members. It should still work the same. I just don't want to type all that in again. I'm lazy. Okay. I like the developer. So in a lot of testing to speed up, we will pre-fill some names in there. So instead of having some of this stuff where it says, please enter this, like that, we would take some of this stuff out. We'd comment it out, and we just automatically have a name in there hard-coded. We just throw it in there. It's just because we're not worried about this part breaking right here. I'm not worried about getting input next line is going to break. I just want the data because I want to maybe get to something further down. So lots of times we'll do that. Or we'll do is we'll up here, right up here before we even do this, we'll comment this out and we'll call another program where it just loads up a bunch of data. So then the rest of the program can run. Because that becomes a tricky part when you're doing some of this development, whatever you're working on. If the program is really big, sometimes the part you're working on is like right in the middle somewhere, or even at the end. And to get there, you got to go through a whole bunch of gyrations, a whole bunch of different steps to do that. It's not as simple as just, okay, run it, type in a couple things, and boom, you're there. You might have to do this, click here, do this. It doesn't do this, and it's real annoying. Doing it onesies and twosies is not a big deal, but can you imagine having to keep doing it over and over again? It's a headache. So a lot of the stuff you learn to speed up your testing so that you run it, boom, it gets almost right to that point where you are, or maybe you enter like 1 or 2 pieces of data and then that's it. And then boom, and then you can actually test what you want to test. Then when you get past that, then you're like, okay, I'll put everything back again. You got to remember to do that too. So just kind of food for thought. So all right, so this is bowling team 3, and everything should still be working the same. I'm gonna go to the bottom here, and what we're gonna do is do a search. So what they want us to do is to type in system.out.print. We're gonna get some more information from the user, and we're gonna do a couple spaces after, and it says enter a team to see its roster. And it's just going to find the roster. You can enter a team name. Obviously, you've got to spell it correctly. That's my pet peeve about some of this stuff. That's why I love drop downs. I love drop downs, things like that, where the user can't type it accidentally. So you're going to get name is going to be what the user enters in. So now I've got the name of the team. So now what I got to do is I got to search through this whole list that we created to find the team. And once I get it, then I'm going to spit out the members, right? So the best way to do that is to have a for loop set up. And we've got variables x and y, so I can just use y again. So y is equal to 0. I'm going to go through all the teams. So teams.length. Okay. And I'm just going to keep incrementing until I find the team I need. Now, the book plays with curly braces and all this stuff. I don't like doing that. They have none. So I'm going to open it. I'm going to do curly braces. I don't like how they do it. Because there's a way, if you are just using the next line, you can do one line, and then the next line is in this case is another if statement, which then you can just do one line, the next line, and but I don't. To me, that gets really kind of messy. So I'm going to say if. It's to say if name is the name of the team, right? If name dot equals, right? So if that name dot equals what? If name dot equals teams, the index or subscript y dot get team name. So if it's equal to that, I found it. So it's going to just keep searching until it's equal to it. So if I misspell it or whatever, it's not going to find it. Again, I'm going to do curlies because I'm knowing that way. Even there's one line. So if it finds it, Yay. Then what is it going to do? It's going to spit out the members. So x is equal to 0. X is less than num team members. And then plus x. And again, yeah, you could, you know what? You could probably just copy this actually. Almost. That's all we're doing, right? Same thing. This whole section here up here. In this case, I'll just do the one line. This says system.out. Actually, you know what? It's the exact same line, except, no, it is. So I'm going to cheat. Copy that up there and just put it there. The only difference is you searched for it and then you found it. There you go. System.out print teams y. Y is the parent, is the loop. Get member x plus there. So let's see if this works. Unfortunately, now I have to type all that stuff in again. Ugh. But we have to test it. Oh, what did I miss? If name that equals, oh, I missed an extra. So how many parentheses? I got 1 left, 2 left, 3 left, and only 2 right. Oops, 3 right. So do that. It didn't count. Okay. All right, pain in the butt. There we go. Let's run it. Game name. I'm gonna stand by Stooges. Larry. Of course, I could just, I guess, I could just do this. Yeah. Team name. Okay. Sweet. And I got it. So then it asked me to do that. And again, how realistic is this? You would take this piece of code and you'd say, do you want to enter another team and see that team's roster, right? It'd be like on a menu. You'd have it like in a while loop. And then so you don't want to, that's it. So it just goes through the loop and finds it. That's it. So get me the name. Once you got the name, and all it does is just go through, find me the team. Now let's do it. I don't want to do it. Well, I'll do it one more time. So team name. I'm just gonna do 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna be really boring. 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. E. All right. I'll enter some garbage. So it doesn't find it, which obviously. And again, you'd want to put some type of error message in. I'm sorry, I didn't find your team. Please try again. Things like that. So you got to think in terms of those things. You don't want to just, that's it. What do you mean you didn't find it? It's like you're on the web and you're searching for something, and all of a sudden you can't find it. This is kind of off topic. Good point. Yeah, so then if you do that, jeez. Spell. It comes in the for loop. It's going to process through that. As soon as it finds what it needs to find, it does its thing, and then it sets this to the max, which means as soon as it pops up here, it's going to pop out anyway. Yeah. Yeah. And again, with 4, it's not a big deal. But yeah, if you have hundreds, that could be a big deal. You're right. Yeah, you can have a lot of elements. That could save you time. It saves processing. That's a nice way to do it. Definitely. Yeah. Good call. Good call. Okay. So the reason I wanted to do that was because I wanted to take this one and do this last one with the passing, like I was showing you before. So passing data elements, search for the array, but I want a passing methods, passing by value. So let's do that. So I'm going to take what we just did, and I'll leave that in there. This is Bowling Team Demo 3, and we're going to change this to 4, like so. Save as. Save it to 4. Yeah, I'm saving over all my stuff. Okay. So now, again, passing an array. So now what we're going to do is, it says just before the closing brace for the class, change the class name to match the file name of the web. Just before the closing brace for the class, add the following shell for a method that accepts a bowling team array argument. Okay. Okay. Let me pause this for a second. I'm going to record this. So again, this is why I like to. So this is my main method. Ends my 4, ends my 4. So this is my main, I think, right here, right? I'm going to make it really small to make sure that that's right. Yeah, you still can't see it. Teeny tiny. There you go. Huh. This is why I do it, because again, it just makes your life so much easier. And then obviously the last one is the class, right? That's easy. So end class. Like so. Okay. So what they want to do is, before the closing brace for the class, what I want you to do is add the following structure for the method. So we're going to say public static void get team data. Okay. So we're going to create this method, and we're going to pass it what? We're going to pass it the array. Main teams, like so. Open curly, close curly. Okay. So there's our method structure set up. And I should be able to compile this, build it, and it should build fine. Because all I did was add that one method there, public static get team. Okay. Now within here, we're going to add some extra code, like so. And they want string, which is a name. They want final int. Again, num teams. All right, not much. Int, another int. We're going to use x again, and we're going to use y again. Again, you can put those on the same line if you want. That's fine. You could put the constants together. A lot of times I'll put constants together. Team members. Which one of these is not like the others? So 4 teams, 4 team members. Like so. And then finally, we're going to create the scanner object, right? So scanner input is equal to new scanner and then system.in, like we've been doing. Okay. Again, all we did was declare some variables and create an instance of a class. Again, I can build it, make sure everything compiles. It does. Yay. We're good. Okay. So now I'm in this, and now I'm going to do what they want to do is so we're moving code. So the 13 lines of code that are assigned to the bowling team array. So get team data, right? So what are we doing? And this, again, this is very common. Your program starts getting too big, unruly, whatever. You're like, let's do a method and break it down, make it smaller. I don't know if I mentioned in this class, but I had a professor at Parkside, and he would deduct points if you had any method or subroutine that was bigger than 10 lines. That was just some arbitrary amount he did. He's like, it shouldn't be more than 10 lines. Well, why? Because it shouldn't. Oh, okay. So now we got to do what? So now we got to do is we got to cut this line that's getting the team members, right? And names, right? Or is it just the name? So what are we doing? Because they have and then there. So where do we get that? Isn't it this whole section right here? Isn't it all this? I don't know if it's 13 lines. I didn't count. I have spaces in there. I have this too in here. I've got stuff like this in here still, which I left in just for my own sake. Oops, jeez. Don't do that. Because what's going to happen is, all right, I'm going to take all this and this, and I'm going to cut it out. Now, again, if you're nervous about that, I'm going to do Control-C to copy it. Just do a /* and comment it out, / at the bottom. So it's still there, but you're not using it. It's a little, it's a little annoying because you got a lot of code now that you're commenting out. But it's nice because if you really make a mistake, you can just go back and uncomment it. Then go down to the method, find where you want to put it, and then Control-V, paste it. There you go. Okay. So now that code is out. I've pasted that in there. Right? I've got this going. I've got this going. But right now, I should get, if I tried to build this, I should get an error because those aren't set up because I moved them. But it should compile. I just can't run it. Right? So here's my method, get team data. So then all we're going to do is we're going to say, in place of the 13 lines, so I'm going to go back up to here. This is kind of nice. And you're going to make a call. And you're going to say get team data. And you're going to pass teams, which is this guy, right? There's that array. So you're going to come in here, you're going to create teams. You create an instance of that teams object. These are all set up. And then you're going to pass it. Boom, right there. And then this one line is going to do what all this was doing. And it's still doing it. It's just going to do it in another spot there. Again, very common to do that. You're breaking up methods all the time. But you can see now this is becoming more complex. All right. So let's build this. Let's run this. Make sure everything runs okay. So team name. Oh, it'll be really boring. 1, 2, 3. Let's just see if it works. Team 2. Team 3. And team 4. All right. Members of team 1. So everything seemed to work. Team 1, team 2, 3, 4, 4. Oh, enter team to see its roster. I want to see team 3's roster because it's so different than everybody else's. There you go. And so that still all works. So anytime you make a change like that, you want to make sure that everything's still functioning. Now that I did that, I'm like, oh, cool. All right, now I'm going to take this whole thing, even that line, and I'm going to wipe it out, make it cleaner. This is when you start doing your cleanup. Well, technically you should be doing it all along, but like I said, I like to keep stuff commented in there just so I have it. So we commented that out, We're calling, and I might put a comment in there, call method to get team name and members. Something like that, right? And then it calls that. And if there's an error in this method, it will tell you, obviously down in the method. If I make a mistake or something like that, which I could do, it will tell me, it will let me know. There you go. Again, and you're just passing that. So as long as you know how to pass these arrays in the declaration, you pass them, you can do this all day long. It's really kind of handy. And just like it breaks up the code nicely. And again, this is important to know because you might get an assignment if you're doing programming and they might just say, we just need you to create a method to do this. We just need you to create a module or something, a piece of code to do this. So you might just do something like this, just create a piece of code like this, and then other people would end up calling it. Okay, where is it? And then they would put in these calls. They say, what are you passing? Okay, you need to pass me an array. I don't care what it is, just pass me an array. It doesn't matter what they call it. Okay, what's it called? Oh, it's called get team data. Okay, just put whatever you want. I'll send you how you do it, and you do it. Very common. Typically, a lot of times when you're working with other A lot of times you've got the server people, client people, things like that are working because you're sending stuff to a server lots of times and then which goes to a database. There's a lot of coordination that goes on, making sure that things are called properly. Hey, I'm sending you some integers data and it's called this and this. Okay, that's fine. Or no, you can't send me that. That should be a string. Well, how big should it be? Well, it should be 20 characters versus 30. There's a lot of give and take back and forth to make sure that whatever you're sending and creating is being received the way it should be received. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of headaches.